Hey everybody, Rick Casali here in the studio, and today I'm going to talk about the basket style head armature. Armature for a portrait bust, and this type has the wire basket at the top, and you can use it for your terracotta heads, but it's almost more ideal for oil-based clay. So remember in my last materials video, I talked about the plasticine, AKA plastiline, or Roma plastilina is the name brand of this. And this is the clay that never dries. So you're never gonna put this in a kiln, you're gonna make a mold around it. And that's why I say it might be a little more ideal for oil-based clay, because you never have to remove the internal armature. I hope that makes sense. So in my previous video, I talked about good armatures for terracotta that make it very easy to lift the bust off of the pipe. In this case, it would be very difficult to remove the bust from this pipe. It's possible, but let's just leave it at that. So this is the one I had in my last video. I kept calling it the 24-inch. It's actually a 20-inch professional grade head armature from sculpt.com, which is the complete sculptor in New York City. And I did a couple modifications here. I wrapped some aluminum wire around the pipe to give it a little more grip for the clay. Because remember, gravity is always pulling your clay down. So you can put even more wire up around here. You could, link across the basket. And some people even use wire with little T's at the end to hold the weight of the clay. Perhaps more important for water-based clay. Sometimes you've had that experience where you make a head with water-based clay or even plastiline, and in the morning you come in and the whole jaw just fell off. Maybe your clay was too wet, or maybe you didn't have enough support in the armature. So the purpose of the armature is to hold the malleable clay. Now, one other modification here is this was a little bit loose, so I put a screw. I don't know if you can see this, but I put a screw right there, a long screw. And that I used the electric drill, and that just keeps this a little more firm, okay? Now, you can also make your own if you're crafty. In the last video, I talked about this base with the feet on it and the through bolts and the hex nuts down here. Well, I took that base and made my very own basket armature. So I turned this terracotta armature into a plastiline armature pretty easily by using, what is this? This is 3/8 aluminum wire. And I just put two like this. And then I got a hose clamp. See, that's a hose clamp from the hardware store. It's a big one. It's like the biggest one you can get, I think. And you just tighten that up, and that's pretty firm. And again, you could wrap this with more wire. You can do all kinds of stuff. So I'm just showing you that as a homemade option. You can get this aluminum wire at the sculpture stores. You can probably get some version of it from a hardware store. So this pipe is the 12-inch pipe, and then this top wire is a little more flexible. So that's the nice thing about this style armature, is you can actually move the head if you get into trouble and you need to adjust the action. One other style basket armature. This is a wooden one, actually made by a colleague of mine a long time ago, and it was donated to my studio. So you can get creative with this. Just make a wooden base with a 2x2, brace it with these little triangle pieces. You know, it's a little thin for my taste, but hey, it's lasted 30 years, so here it is. And then what I did is I drilled into the top of the 2x2 and put a copper basket, not aluminum, but you could use aluminum. And then I epoxied it in there. And then I covered this with, this is plastiline clay, but it's a different brand. This is the JMac Brown, sulfur-free. I like this as long as it's warm. It's a little more waxy than the Roma Plastilina. So there are a lot of brands of plasticine out there. You know, I tend to like the denser ones. I know a lot of people like the Monster clay. You know, there's Chavant clays. There's all kinds of clays, and I have a whole bunch of them. So that's what this dish is. So that one's ready to go for my workshop next week. And what I'm going to show you today is a little trick to save some clay. This whole basket, you know, essentially this is just filler. So it'd be nice to not have to waste your expensive clay in there. Remember, this can be, you know, $8 a pound. So maybe that's a pound of clay. So to save you $9, just get a ball. This is a wiffle ball. You could use a lacrosse ball, tennis ball. You could use a wad of tin foil, just anything to fill that space. Some people use foam. You know, when you get into bigger sculptures, it's more important to do this. Not only to save you money, but to keep the weight down. Keep your sculpture lighter, because you know, they can really get unbearable in the weight, and that can be strain on your sculpting table, on your body. It can, you know, your armature can start to sag and break. And if, you know, any way you can keep it lighter is good, as long as it's strong, and as long as, you know, when you push on your clay, it's firm. And that's another thing. You know, you wouldn't want to just use newspaper here, because, at least for me, when I'm pushing in on the eye socket or the, you know, whatever, back of the neck, I don't want to hit anything that's soft. I want it to be firm. So I thought I'd just show you how I adhere the clay to the armature. Now this clay, again, has been out in the sun, so it's very malleable. And you don't have to think about the surface at all right now. All you want to do is make sure that this clay is firmly adhered to the armature, to the wire, to the pipe, to that ball in there. And just keep turning it and adding. And again, if this clay were cold, it would take me 10 times as long to put it on. Now, the stronger your hands are, you're going to have an advantage when you get this going. So don't hurt yourself. You know, if you find that you're straining your hands and your joints and your fingers, you know, take a break, heat up your clay, make sure it's warm enough so that this process, even this process, can be enjoyable. You know, I've done a lot of demos in front of audiences where I might get to a venue and I didn't have the chance to heat up my clay properly, and everybody's watching, so I just have to go for it. And then the night after, my wrists and fingers are in pain. So just be careful. I mean, when you're 20 years old, you don't think about that, but you know what I mean. The older you get, the more you realize that you're a mortal. You are a mortal, not immortal. Okay. So here I'm kind of searching around. Some of this clay still has rubber stuck in it from my last mold. So what I like to do is, since the model's not here, and next week we're gonna have a model in the studio, and I don't know her measurements yet. So what I'm gonna do is just make sort of a light bulb shape. And again, I'm grabbing, here's that rubber coming out. See the rubber? What I'm gonna do is just make a light bulb shape, and just think about the neck going right up into the brain. Think of the neck as a pillar, as a cylinder going right up into the cranial mass. Sorry, this rubber is really slowing me down a little. And then another thing you want to do, which I did on this one, is you want to decide where the face is going to go. Which way, you know, where's the face? And in this case, I decided my face will be here. Okay, so you can kind of feel that I'm starting to make the back of the head and the front of the head. Now, it's convenient to make the face go to one of these parallels, just for the sake of symmetry. But technically, if you want more base for the shoulders, I would go diagonally. That's going to give you more, you know what I mean? Like this, a diagonal is longer than the edge. So if I measure this diagonal from corner to corner, it's 20 inches, whereas the side is only 13 inches. Again, this one, see, this is like a mathematical principle. This is 21 inches from diagonal corner to corner, but then, you know, here you only get 18 inches. This side you only get 11 inches. So that's something you can think about too. But for my beginner students, I just say go to a flat edge. Go to a flat edge, and that will give you a nice point of reference for your front versus side. Okay, so I think you probably get the idea. Again, this type of armature, I would definitely recommend for oil-based clay, because look how much clay I'm saving. This clay is floating in the air. I don't even have to put clay down here if I don't want to. Whereas if this was a terracotta, just with a pipe inside, I have to make sure I build my base real carefully so it doesn't tip over. And, you know, gravity would be more of a factor. In this case, gravity is not a factor because the armature's doing the work. Now, here you can see the wire poking through. Okay, that's a no-no. I would get at least an inch of clay over the wire because you don't want to bump into that wire when you're sculpting. Now, if you do, it's no thing to take a hammer and just bang the wire in. Easier to do in the beginning than later. So you always want to be very, very conscious of where the pipe is and where the wire is. Okay, so if you're taking my virtual class and you're using the oil-based clay, I would say a couple days before the class, build this up. Make this light bulb shape in advance of the start of class. Because, you know, why waste your time doing this when there's a beautiful model sitting there, right? So just to conclude, don't try to make anything human yet, but just build a light bulb shaped mass while your clay is warm, and you want to be using like handfuls of clay. It's kind of like painting. When you start the painting, you don't start with your 00 brush and a really thin, you know, wash of paint. You start with your big 2-inch brush and you mix up a big pile of oil paint, and you want to scoop into it like Sorolla would, or a sergeant. and then you want to paint very opaquely. Now, there are different schools of painting, but I think you know what I mean. So sculpture is no different. In the beginning, you want to grab big handfuls of clay, glob it on, squeeze it as hard as you can. If you need to, you can maybe take a hammer and just, I don't know. I don't really like hammers for clay, but you could use some kind of mechanism to beat the clay into the armature so that it doesn't have any air pockets, let's say. Okay, if you want, you can build this all the way down to the base. That's going to give you even more stability. And with this light bulb shape and this type of armature, look, I can still bend it. So it's pretty cool. All right, so that's the basket style armature. And if you're curious about the terracotta style armature, just go back to my previous video. I think it's episode 11 on my YouTube channel. It's free. And then, hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave a comment. Even if you don't like it, leave a comment. And if you really want the good stuff, go to my Patreon page. It's only $10 a month, and you can really get 2-3 hour videos of me sculpting from the model, and all kinds of anatomical demonstrations. All right, so these freebies are mainly for my students, just for basic setup. All right, good luck.